Hey everybody, it's Monica with Fit Eats Coach, and today I'm back with stand-up paddleboard hybrid fitness. This warrior routine is part of my certification for pool fitness and yoga on a stand-up paddleboard, or it's more of a mat. So you'll see that later in the video, but being out on the lake is so amazing. Just working out in nature with animals around you and just beautiful sunsets. I got to paddle and do fitness on the board for about 10 hours over the span of 4 days, 3.5 days, something like that. I got to do some fun photography and a few other things, hiking around a little bit, and of course some mobility work, which I highly recommend that you do before you get started with a stand-up paddleboard workout of any kind, whether it's on a lake or in the pool. All right, so let's get started. All right, so the first exercise is called swells, and it's basically like jogging on a stand-up paddleboard. So what you do is you stand with your feet hip width apart. As you can see, my client is using a very different shape board that is intended for pool use, but you can also use it at the lake, and you can also use a regular stand-up paddleboard in the pool, as you will see in a bit. And what you do with this exercise is you push down on each side of the board, and you start to create waves in the water. Now it feels really awkward. You feel like you're gonna fall off. For some people it's more awkward than it is for others. Some people get the hang of it really quick and start really going crazy with it, and notice how many waves you're creating. That's why it's called swells. You do have to really focus on your core, and it also works your legs pretty hard. So I suggest like 10 to 20 repetitions on each side, and then go to the next thing, and then come back to it. Or you can always do 10 repetitions, take a few seconds to just balance, and then go again and just kind of do repeats. You could even do like Tabata intervals of this, where you're doing 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, although that kind of thing is really hard to time when you're in the water. You're mainly just trying to keep yourself on the board. As you can tell, the more they do it, the more fun they have with it, and I found that to be the same for me. All right, next up we have a plank with a toe dip and a hip extension added into it. So how I learned these in my course is just doing the toe dip, keeping your body nice and flat like a board, dipping that toe into the water, and then just bringing it back to the board. But I decided that I wanted to work my glutes a little bit harder, and so I was adding the hip extension there. Of course, when you do that, try not to pike your butt in the air. You're trying to stay as flat as you can. You will find that all movement, regardless of what it is a whole lot harder on the board. All right, next up we're continuing with opposite arm leg extensions, and you'll find that this exercise feels incredibly difficult. You're on one knee, one hand, and the board is rocking from side to side. I've managed to improve on this exercise over the course of a year that I've been doing these types of workouts on lakes. But still, it feels incredibly challenging, very, very different than doing it just on a yoga mat in the studio. All right, we're moving on to modified reverse planks, or tabletops as some people like to call them. And I'm adding all these different leg variations, where I'm going into maybe like one leg straight, one leg bent. Then I'm gonna add a leg extension to this as well. If you are just getting started, stick to the basic modified tabletop, modified reverse plank, whatever you want to call it, and then start experimenting. You'll find that when you try to come up into that tabletop, you feel like you're pushing down into that board and you're not going anywhere. You really have to engage your entire back to get those hips up high. All right, next up we have a modified side plank, elbow to knee. And anytime that you're doing side planking movement, you can hook your foot on the back of the board, which is called the rails. So it makes it a little bit easier to find your balance that way. And if you feel comfortable, you can always come into just a regular side plank. I did try those on my own without a camera filming, and I was able to do them, but they feel a little bit scary, like you're about to just dive off the board. So I didn't want to film that. I wanted to film something that was a little bit more doable. All right, next up we have just a forearm plank walk-in. And so, or some people call these dolphin planks. you're just in a plank, you're trying to keep your body flat, and then what you're doing is you're engaging that abdominals, really driving that belly button to the spine and walking those feet in and piking that hips in the air as high as you can get them. And you'll notice that the board shifts front to back, and that adds to the whole challenge of this exercise. Now, I recommend that you do about 10 repetitions of each of these things, and then you stretch for a little bit. And if you want to, you can repeat this circuit 1 or 2 more times. I did a whole lot of other things that I was not able to film because we were kind of on a vacation, and I didn't want to be pestering my husband to film every single thing I was doing on the lake. I did some really amazing workouts though, and I am so excited to be getting certified in this and to have the opportunity to go again in a couple of weeks. So maybe next time I'll be able to film more of the things that I've been able to do on the lake and with clients at the pool. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll be back with more water workouts to help you get fit this summer. Thanks for watching.